Hi! Welcome to a new video. Today we're going to talk about the latest K-pop Coachella performances. 2024 Coachella was very controversial in the K-pop community due to the public's response to LE SSERAFIM's vocal delivery. However, I really enjoyed IT's and the Rose's performances. And I don't think LE SSERAFIM's set brought a bad image to K-pop overall, like some people said. So I was very curious about the 2025 K-pop performances and how they would be received by the public. In this video, I will be discussing and rating Enhypen, Lisa, and Jennie's Coachella sets. So, without further ado, let's start with the video. Let's start with the first performer, Lisa. To be honest, and contrary to the opinions I've seen online, I genuinely thought it was a good set overall. Maybe it had some issues and it definitely wasn't perfect, but she certainly put on a show that I enjoyed watching. The best thing about her performance was definitely the production. She made sure everyone noticed that she had a high budget. I liked that she kept the concept of her album and that she used different stage props for each alter ego. Seeing the screen transitions showing the names and designs of the alter egos was so fun too, and it was a good idea to entertain the crowd while she was changing her outfits. Starting with Thunder was very smart because it served as an introduction for the set, and the theatrics made the audience curious about the rest of the performance. When it comes to Lisa's vocal performance, I've seen a lot of people making fun of her and saying that she was lip-syncing during the whole thing or that she was relying too much on the backtrack. I'm not going to lie, I do think the backtrack was very loud during some songs. However, when I was watching the performance, I didn't get the feeling that she wasn't singing at all or that her singing was awful, like I've seen some people say. My issue with Lisa's vocal delivery is the lack of stamina. I understand that she has to rely on a backtrack during high-energy songs like Lifestyle, where she only sang half of the song. But when she started performing the slower songs where she had to focus more on her vocal delivery, like Dream, we could tell that she was out of breath from the previous performances because her voice was very shaky and unstable. Nevertheless, I don't think her vocal delivery was a mess for the whole performance. She had very good vocal moments, like during Rockstar. Overall, I would say that it wasn't perfect, but it wasn't awful either. Another thing that I enjoyed was the set list. She performed her biggest hits, including her old ones. She didn't perform only her upbeat songs but also included the more chill ones, giving us a variety of genres and putting on different types of shows. Honestly, the thing that I hated the most about this set was her outfits. I don't know if her stylist just hates her, but she kept showing up in ugly outfit after ugly outfit, and she could barely move in some of them, which made some dance moves look very awkward to watch. On the other hand, the thing that I personally loved most about her set was her attitude and the way she kept hyping up the crowd. You can definitely tell that she has star power. As I said, I think this was a decent Coachella set overall. It's definitely not as good as the Lady Gaga one, but honestly, I didn't expect it to be, and that's okay. Now let's discuss Enhypen's performance. I don't want to be shady at all, but I understand why they didn't pull a big audience and why people kept leaving in the middle of the set. The whole thing was awfully underwhelming. The main issue with the set was definitely the set list. I genuinely don't understand why they decided to go with their most boring and uninteresting songs first, only to leave the ones that suit the festival's vibe the most, like Drunk Dazed and Brought the Heat Back, for the end. No one besides their fans is going to sit through half an hour of dull songs just to get 10 minutes of a good show. Especially when it comes to Coachella, where there's a wide variety of diverse music being played at the same time, and people can easily just leave for another act if they feel like they're wasting their time. I know I praised Lisa for giving us a variety of genres, and I will praise Jennie too. But the thing is that Jennie and Lisa performed these songs in a small section in the middle of the set, and they served a purpose. They showed us raw, vulnerable parts of themselves, getting the audience emotional. However, Enhypen spent 30 minutes performing boring songs that weren't emotional or raw, they were just basic songs. The setlist alone didn't make the show underwhelming. The outfits and stage props were also incredibly uninteresting. As much as the members kept trying to hype up the crowd between songs, the overall vibe of the performance just felt off. It felt more like they were performing on Music Bank rather than delivering a full Coachella set. I think the reason for this is that they stuck too strictly to the choreography and only walked around during specific songs. Everything felt very calculated and rehearsed. I mean, all these performances are usually like that, but some artists, like Lisa for example, know how to cover it up and make it seem genuine. I also think it's because they kept focusing way too much on the camera and forgot about the crowd during the songs, only remembering to hype them up in between tracks. That made the whole thing look very awkward and staged. Enhypen's vocal performance was, by far, the best part of the show. They were smart to play it safe by avoiding the more challenging notes and lowering the choreo's intensity so they could sound stable throughout the entire performance. Objectively, the Enhypen members didn't do a bad job, but honestly, getting through the whole set was a real challenge because I kept getting bored. So yeah, overall I would just say that the performance was underwhelming. Now let's talk about the last performer, Jennie.
Coachella, you ready to rock with me?
She definitely had the best Coachella set among K-pop acts this year. The setlist choice was perfect. Ruby has the perfect vibe for the Coachella crowd, and she also maintained high energy throughout the entire performance, which did the songs justice. I would say the worst thing about the performance was definitely her singing, not because it was bad, but because there was barely any of it. Like Lisa, she relied too much on the backtrack and even lip-synced through almost entire songs.
This that pretty girl munch, she said, I make it wanna swing both ways. Fix me with the drama, she kill like commas. Like close up pajamas, trip from the
I feel like in her set it was more noticeable than in Lisa's, because most of Lisa's songs are rap tracks, so her shouting the lyrics wasn't as obvious. Meanwhile, in Jennie's case, it was clear she was avoiding the more vocally challenging parts of the songs. I'm not saying this is inherently bad, I would still prefer this over an out-of-tune vocal mess, but I was just hoping there'd be more live singing overall. However, she made up for it with her high energy and ability to hype up the crowd. I feel like the Blackpink members work so well as a group because they give their all during their individual parts and use the other members' parts to catch their breath. That's why the lack of stamina isn't noticeable in their group Coachella sets, unlike this year's solo stages. That said, it wasn't all a mess. I was pleasantly surprised when she stopped dancing and took the handheld mic to perform FTS. She still had a backtrack, but you could clearly hear her voice, and she actually sounded very good.
whatever happened to freedom and honesty. What matters to you, it's not that deep to me.
One thing I did love about Jennie's set was the song rearrangements, especially for Mantra and Extra L. They gave the tracks a fresh vibe and piqued the crowd's curiosity about the performance. The only downside was that there were a lot of unnecessary dance breaks. Nevertheless, Jennie executed the choreographies perfectly and delivered an entertaining show, which, at the end of the day, is exactly what Coachella demands. The best performances were definitely Zen and Like Jennie. You can clearly tell she feels more comfortable singing these songs than the more vocally demanding ones like Handlebars, for example. When she brought Kali Uchis on stage, I was very surprised. It was a good idea, don't get me wrong, but the execution of that performance wasn't great. I'm not sure why Jennie decided to step in front of her guest and dance during Caliucci's part, only to return abruptly to bid her goodbye and then keep dancing like nothing happened. I don't know if I'm the only one who felt this way, but it was definitely awkward to watch. As I said, overall it was a great show, definitely not perfect, but it lived up to Coachella's standards. I had a great time watching it, and you could tell the crowd did too, which is what truly matters at the end of the day. All in all, we could say that this year's K-pop Coachella sets weren't bad. There's room for improvement, that's for sure, but let's not act like all Western artists served flawless perfect performances or that said performances are a must at Coachella.